Hello and welcome. It is a maiden edition of your business diary, The Hustle, your go-to premium platform which offers visibility and reach to business owners, entrepreneurs, and of course investors alike to engage, interact, and drive ultimately the success of their business through meaningful conversation. I am Joshua Okata. On today's episode, our focus will be delving into the overall economic activities of a human resource professional with respect to navigating through talent acquisition, culture shift, and everything in between. I'm being joined by Emmanuel Samuel, who is the HR professional at Flutterwave. All right, Mr. Manuel, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
All right, now let's delve into the crux of the matter. But before we do just that, I'd like you, in just one sentence, if you can, to tell us just what you think about who a human resource manager or a professional is.
Okay, so thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
It's a huge pleasure to be here. Who I think an HR person is, or an HR professional is, essentially is someone who helps an organization to identify, attract, hire, develop, and manage the talents that the organization needs to achieve the goals. So that's in a sentence. If you need me to probably shed more light, I would. But
Yeah, so in the course of the conversation, we'll be able to delve more into that. But then let's look on the issue of talent acquisition management. Now, my question to you is skills-based hiring the future of talent acquisition?
100%, or maybe 90%, and I'll give context to that. But first, skill-based hiring is the future of, in fact, it's the now of hiring, and of course, it's going to be relevant in the future. So, many organizations are first, we are having very streamlined job descriptions, or when we put out the job adverts, we're having very streamlined job adverts in the sense that we're having job adverts that focus on what exactly we're looking for in terms of the skills that can do the job. So we're not just saying so many words, we are focusing the light on key skills that we're looking out for. And back to the reason why I said it's probably just is 90% and maybe not 100%, is because in addition to skill-based hiring, we're also looking for character. So we're not just hiring for competence, we're also looking for character. And that's why you hear many organizations have what is called a culture fit interview. So they're not just having technical interviews, we're also having culture fit interviews that also test whether or not a candidate has the right core values, the right character to sit well in the organization. So organizations typically have what they call core values. Some will call theirs maybe honesty, communicating respectfully, timeliness, whatever it's called. So we're looking for, yes, a good percentage of premium is based on skill-based hiring, but we're also looking for talents that match the culture, that have the right attitude, the right character. So it's a mix of skill-based.
All right, because what you just said now just took the next question off my lid, because I was going to ask you, where is the place for people who might literally have the character but have little or no experience, especially when it comes to employability training, kind of job. So now let's come to the issue of the role of employer branding and attracting top talent.
Interesting. Should I shoot?
Go ahead.
Okay, so I was having a conversation with a lady just yesterday. So she's just starting out in HR. So she told me, hey, Emmanuel, I would like to specialize in recruitment because I know that you are a recruitment person, blah, 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 blah. And I said, okay, that's nice. And I really appreciated the fact that she actually saw the need to reach out to seek counsel, because that's one of the things that I did and I still do, right? So I told her something that I would rather have focus on talent acquisition as a broad topic, subject, rather than recruitment, because recruitment is just a part of talent acquisition. And I'm so glad that your question was on talent acquisition, not recruitment.
That's true.
So talent acquisition covers every effort that an organization puts into getting the right talent. So recruitment is just a part of it. So talent acquisition talks about how do we position ourselves rightly to attract the right talent, right? Because that's like a major step in recruiting talent, right? And that's where employer branding, which is the core of your question, comes in. So as an organization, you want to be conscious of what talents think about your organization. I tell you for free, one of the things that, and if a candidate or if any talent is listening to me, you can bear me witness. One of the things that you would typically do when you see a role open, probably a role that you're interested in, one of the things that probably first two, three things you do is to go and Google the organization to check what the organization is all about. That's part of employer branding because you're interested in seeing if this is an organization you want to work with. You are interested in seeing what actually is this organization doing. Is it an organization I want to give the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years of my career to, right? And that's where employer branding is very important. It's not just a buzzword. It's not just something that, oh, is nice to the ears. So it's every effort. And it's not just what you post on social media that is employer branding. Employer branding goes, in talent acquisition, for instance, it goes as much or as detailed into how you put out your roles. How do you give enough description about the role? Am I still having questions in my head after checking your job advert? It goes into what's your recruitment process like? Is it too long? In fact, as simple as applying for the job vacancy, is it taking me 5-10 minutes to just apply for one job on your website? So that's employer branding. So it has a huge part to play, and I'm happy to tell more stories about it if we have more questions.
All right, now let's touch a little bit on recruitment process. As some people say, data is key. You cannot play down the importance of data. So now, when it comes to recruitment, how can HR make good use of data analytics to be able to predict the hiring success?
Okay, so when it comes to HR, yes, and maybe specifically talent acquisition, yes, we do a lot of interaction with human beings. And of course, human beings are more psychological. We are not pure science, right? But that doesn't mean that data is useless when it comes to dealing with humans or hiring. I'll give you probably 1, 2, 3 case studies or key examples where data is very useful when it comes to hiring. Talent density. So what I mean by talent density is the propensity to get particular talents in a particular region. Say, for instance, I'm looking for a software engineer. What's the likelihood that I'm going to get a software in Africa? What's the likelihood that I'll get a software engineer in Kenya or in Nigeria compared to somewhere like Burundi? Data will help you with that. So if as an as a talent acquisition professional, you are given an empty slate, oh, hire a software engineer from Africa for us, a smart talent acquisition professional who is data-centric wouldn't just go into hiring. Because you want to get your work done good and fast, you want to consult data. Okay, how much data? Where, in what areas in Africa will I get enough software engineers? And that's data. Data is going to provide that for you. So that's one key way that data is very important in talent acquisition. Another way, maybe I'll stop on 2, would be measuring how long your process takes. I tell you for a fact that one of the things that put off candidates is too long interview process, lengthy interview process, right? So you want to measure how long from, is what is called time to hire and time to fill. So I'll talk about time, those are data, those are metrics. I'll talk about time to hire. So time to hire is from when you contact a talent for a position, probably when he or she applies and you see the CV, or when you reach out to the candidate, till when you send the offer. That's the time to hire. So data would, if you are paying attention to data, you'll be able to track, okay, my time to hire is 50 days, average 50 days for the past, say, 2-3 months. I should be able to do 1 or 2 things to ensure that that number goes down. So the talent acquisition professional that pays attention to data will be able to hire fast, hire well, and give a great kind of experience to the candidates.
All right. Now, you've talked about the issue of hire. Now, let's look at how we can strike a balance when it comes to company culture with diversity in hiring?
Company culture and diversity. So within the last, maybe it has died down a bit, but within the last past, say, 5, 6 years, there's a whole lot of buzz around diversity and inclusion and equity, DEI, diversity, equity and inclusion, right? How that organizations should be diverse, shouldn't allow racial bias, gender bias, and all of that, right, in hiring, which I 100% think is very relevant, right? Because I, as a talent, I don't want to be cut off just because, for instance, I'm a Muslim or I'm a Christian or I am a person with disability, or the way I prefer to call it, a person who is differently able.
Or someone with a special need?
Thank you so much. Someone with a special need. So it's very, very important in the company culture and even in everything we do, and specifically talent acquisition, right? So you need to think outside the box in terms of, yes, we're looking for the best talents, but is anything in our process or is anything within our organization going to stop them from being attracted, from being hired, or thriving in the world of work, right? So you have someone with, say, for instance, a talent with a special need who it might not be convenient for the person to come to the office every 5 days in the week, right? Are you thinking of how can we make adjustment? Probably come to the office once or twice a week. You are paying attention to ensure that, oh, we are encouraging diversity in this workplace, which of course, 8 or 10 over 10 of the times would give a good culture.
All right, the room is quite heated right about now, and that will bring about my next question. Most candidates are always about, which is remuneration. How does, a human resource professional put up a strategy when it comes to remuneration and, of course, years of experience to be able to impact talent attraction and retention?
Okay, so this is one of the
Perhaps the two questions in one.
yeah. This is one of the aspects of our work as talent acquisition professionals and HR professionals generally that we tend to have issues with candidates or with people generally, right? Apart from probably layoffs and all of that, firing people. So it's a very, although it sounds very simple, it's a very strategic part of talent acquisition and talent management generally, right? So we don't just come up with job requirements and remuneration abstractly, right? I want to believe that, or I want to guess that many talents or many candidates will think, oh, why are they hiring for a head of a team and they're saying they're looking for 10 years experience? I have 2 years experience. I believe I can lead a team. So the funny thing, or the reality, let me put it that way, is that talent management and running a company is not feeling based, right? It's not idea. Just I think that this should work. It's based on data, just like one of the questions we talked about, right? And it's based on what is on ground, what's the reality. So one major reason that we have those structures, talking about remuneration or years of experience, job requirements, is the job, the duty of the role, the responsibility of the role, right? You can't expect that the same weight of responsibility that an intern has is the same weight of responsibility that a team lead should have. You can't expect that the same weight of responsibility that a team lead has should be the same weight of responsibility that a team member has. It's not possible.
That's true.
And in the same vein, the remuneration cannot be the same thing.
Okay.
Right? Because the value that different people are, or the value that different talents are bringing to the table is what would cause difference in remuneration, all right? So that's number one. So there's a whole lot of thought process that goes into defining requirement, defining strategy. For instance, I want to hire an expansion lead, my organization wants to, this is just hypothesis, this is just an example. For instance, I'm working with an organization that wants to expand outside of Africa, say into Asia and into Europe, for instance. You wouldn't expect that I'll be looking for someone with a 2-year experience, a 3-year experience, an entry-level person to lead, to manage that expansion for an organization that turns in, say, an annual revenue of $2 billion. You're not expect that I'm looking for someone with, say, 2, 3, 4, 5 years experience. I would most likely be looking for someone who has been there, done that. I'm looking for someone who has actually done the work, all right? So that's why those differences happen. Most times the differences are because of the expectations that we want, the KPIs that the person that is going to be coming on board is supposed to fulfill.
Okay, so talk more about the strategy you put in place to attract the right talent and the retention when it comes to expected remuneration.
Okay, so can you spotlight on that question so that I ensure that I'm responding very well?
All right, so what strategy do you put in place as a HR professional to attract the right talent while also making sure that the remuneration that that person is accrued to is perhaps, what's the word to use, commensurate with the candidate's qualification?
Okay, so that's a very good question, and I'll tell you why. An anomaly that I've been seeing, I've been a bit vocal about, because I think I speak once in a while on LinkedIn. I post once in a while on LinkedIn. And one of the areas that I would probably typically touch maybe once a quarter, once a while, would be that I see a lot of organizations that want to hire an elephant and pay the salary of an ant. So you're looking for someone with 15 years of experience, who has experience across telco, FMCG, fintech, and even the banking sector. And probably you want the person to be a team lead. And the salary apportioned to that role, someone 15 years is, let's say, because the person is high, let's put like 200K to 250K to someone of 15 years of experience. And you will think it's a joke until you see such job ads. And you'll be like, are these people don't you understand what you're looking for? Right? Like, people would jokingly say, if you get such a team lead, someone who with like 50 years of experience, who's willing to take 200 to 250K, the person will most likely lead the team astray, right? That's a joke, but that's possibly true as well. So it's very important that we don't, back to data, that we don't base our remuneration and our job requirements on vibes or what I think. And that's where things like what the market is paying for certain roles, market surveys, looking for, okay, what's the data for this role? In fact, you have to sometimes even pay attention to the industry that you're hiring from. It's not the same salary band that you pay a marketer in, say, for instance, logistics, that is paid to a marketer in oil and gas, no this to logistics.
Right.
But it's just because of the revenue counts that the different industries report, all right? So we have to pay attention to data when it comes to apportioning requirements and remuneration, right? So,
all right, so talking about remuneration, I'm going to ask you my last question on that before we delve further. Talk to us about the issue of making salary or benefit, as the case may be, a priority when recruiting.
When we interview candidates and we ask them, why do you want to join the organization? Many times they say, I'm looking for my next challenge. I think I want to contribute to what the organization is doing, or the core values. I love the core values of organization. Yes, and we know, but at the end of the day, we also know that the money and the benefits, yes, it plays a part, right? It's very important, the role that benefits and remuneration plays in talent acquisition, right? And that's why we shouldn't play down on it. Organizations should think as creative as possible. You might not be able to play with the top guys in your industry in terms of how much they pay, but there's some benefits that you might be able to do, you might be able to give. I'll tell you maybe some secrets that I'm letting off organization, but you can make use of it if it works if you're able to implement it. Things like exam leave, for instance, right? not every organization gives exam leaves, right? You can say, okay, we are giving you 5-10 days in a year if you have any professional exam.
That's outside your official leave.
Annual leave, outside your official annual leave.
All right.
In addition to that, things like paternity leave, for instance.
Mm.
Not many organizations are giving men leave. They feel it's just the women that are busy in the child, what's it called, period, in the period of taking care of a child. Yes, the women might have a whole lot of responsibility, yes, but the men could and should also be of help at such times.
Yes.
The woman needs as much support as she can get at that time, and they need as much care that they can give for their child. It's not for the woman's child. It's not only the woman's child, it's their child, right? So if an organization can think about that benefit, there are a whole lot of other benefits like that. Some organizations today are giving a period leave benefits, right, to women in their menstrual for that. And I think I should drop a caveat here or a disclaimer here. It might not be able to work for all organizations. So an organization that just has probably 3, 4, 5, 10 employees, not all these benefits will work, but think outside the box.
All right.
Which benefit can, don't say, no, it's not possible.
So
We
it's
can't
not a
go any
one-size-fits-all
Yeah,
situation.
no one size
Right, now
fits all.
let's get into other issues because we are pressed for time. Let's talk about HR and the marketing unit. Is there any form of collaborative effort that exists between these two extremes? If there is, please tell me.
100%. Especially when we're talking about, I'll talk about probably two things. First,
Right.
employer branding, right? That's a cooperation between HR and marketing, right? Probably a huge part of that. In many organizations have different strategies when it comes to employer branding. But what I've noticed is most organizations, based off my observation, the marketing team, in fact, sometimes they call them the branding team, they're the ones who manage employer branding, like say 70 to 80%, while HR supports. But that's a very good place that the HR team and marketing can work together, coming up with ideas on how they can properly position the employer as an employer of choice, and also communicating. It's not that HR is coming up with great ideas as say benefits, for instance, but HR is also working with marketing to laud it, right? Because it's fine that you are doing great stuff, but if you are not lauding it to the public, you are shooting yourself on the foot.
That's true.
You are restricting the ratio or the number of talents that you can actually attract by just that simple announcement, right? So that's one way, employer branding. The second way that I think is very important for HR and marketing to work together would be in terms of, and this would fall majorly on HR, would be in terms of HR knowing the contents that the marketing guys are putting out, such that you are able to even speak to talents about those contents. So say, for instance, your marketing guys, they have things like a podcast for tech guys. They do a podcast for tech guys typically. If a smart HR can leverage on that and get talent.
You just took the question off my list right now because I was going to touch more on the advantages, that exist in the collaborative effort that these two units can have, especially when HR has to leverage on it. So tell us, what are those benefits that, a human resource professional can actually benefit by leveraging?
Fantastic. So nice question. So I'll continue with that analogy I was using. So for instance, a marketing team organizes a quarterly or monthly podcast for, say, software engineers. Right? A smart HR, because you know about that, you're not just saying, oh, this is marketing, I'm not interested in whatever they are doing. It's just HR. But someone who is smart, someone who is focused on employer branding would pay attention to that and can use that as a lure to get software engineers. And there's an easy way to do that. Say, for instance, one thing that engineers like to do, some, maybe not all, is to share the little that they know. And in fact, many people like to share what they know. Many people like to, and that's why I see a lot of people post online, on Instagram, thought leaders, post, share, blah, 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 blah. It's good, but of course, has to be with moderation. A lot of people like to do that. As a smart HR person, talent acquisition person, I can add that as a benefit, that cool, yes, I have this exciting opportunity for you. In addition to the remuneration, HMO, blah, 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 we also host this monthly or quarterly podcast sessions where you can actually get to speak. You are a thought leader, you're an engineering leader who has had about probably 15, 20 years of experience doing your work. That can give you an opportunity to show yourself, share the little that you have, pay back to the society. So that can only happen if an HR professional, in this case, the talent acquisition professional, pays attention to what the marketing team is doing and sometimes even collaborates, right? So that's a major advantage that can be had with that.
All right.
And the second was what I said earlier on, that it can help you to position yourself as an employer of choice.
Now, let me talk to you about workplace culture. What do you think can be done to strike a balance somewhat when it comes to confidentiality with transparency in HR investigation?
Confidentiality.
Yes.
So one sad but prevailing statement that you would often hear amongst employees is, if you don't want your secret to become a workplace topic, you don't tell the HR. Is a reality, right? But it's sad because confidentiality should actually be like the core of what we do as HR professionals, right? Especially because we are also, in some sense, the custodian of culture, right? We reward culture, we preach culture, right? Of course, the leadership owns culture, right? But we preach culture, we reward culture, and all of that. Confidentiality is a non-negotiable, right? So yes, we would tell employees, well, you can speak to us. HR is your friend, just like the police say, police is your friend. And then they sadly show us some things that we don't like. The same thing also sometimes applies to HR, which I think is a very important topic or issue that we should pay attention to, right? For an employee to tell you a concern is because they trust you. You don't just share your secret with someone you don't trust. So and trust is just like they would say, it's like an egg. Once it drops, it's gone, right? Like once you miss it, you lose it. And the sad thing with losing trust with one employee is that you most likely lose trust with every other employee. Because that employee would tell other employees that, I told HR this thing, and it was only HR I told this thing, and then that's become a topic of discussion in the organization. So confidentiality it might not be part of your core value as an organization, but it's part of your core value as a professional.
All right. So we've seen in recent times where certain persons, by virtue of their conduct online and on socials, some persons get to report them, at their place of work, perhaps because the HR may have access to some of their social media accounts. So is this out of place? That's my question to you. Is this out of place for a human resource professional to have access to employees' personal social media handles?
So
I know you can relate to what I'm talking.
Yeah, of course, 100%. I'll be pretending if I said anything different. So access, of course, they would have access. If you say access in terms of can they see what you are posting, of course, they have access to seeing it. I thought handle in terms of
to track your everyday affairs online.
Of course not. Of course not. I do not think that especially except
when I request for such information, is that a red flag?
So it depends on the role, right? So there are some roles that you have to 100% be careful of what you put out online.
Really?
Especially because for roles that deal with very sensitive information, there are some roles that do. So say for instance, a CIO, a chief intelligence officer, that deals with data of the organization. You have access to whatever data. Yes, there's data that HR tracks, there's data that finance tracks, but you as a CIO, you have access to all the data, such people, whilst you might not probably get their handles, I think that's an extreme. But some organizations have a good point of doing that to track that, oh, this information that you posted, please, is a bit confidential. Can you adjust it? Blah, blah, blah. While it might be, and that's where they say management is situational. There's a whole lot of context to management. So many times there's no one size fits all. But for an average employee, I really think that's a stretch. And in fact, they even have the time to be doing all of that. There are a lot of strategic things to do as an HR professional compared to having to.
Okay, so now that brings me to my next question, because I think my directors are itching for me to throw that question at you. You know, it's completely impossible for you to have an entity or an enterprise without having a ton of Gen Zs, as the case may be. And sometimes some people have this, misconception that they can be very difficult to deal with. So how do you manage, these extremes?
Okay, so I would say, I've been thinking, the coincidental thing is I've been thinking a whole lot about this generational war, right? Especially that the Gen Zs are a huge recipient.
In fact, I saw something, sorry to butt in, I saw something online just a few days back where supposedly a Gen Z just dropped his resignation letter in 2 words. Dear management, ego B. I mean, how do you resign your employment in that? So how do you deal with this kind of people?
Okay, so yeah, like I was saying, yeah, that's actually maybe not typical, but it's not strange for Gen Zs to do.
Yeah.
So I've been thinking of recent about the generational wars, the generational differences.
Yeah.
And one of the conclusions, maybe not conclusion, but one of what I've drawn from my thoughts so far is it's more of a societal and personal problem or issue, let me not say problem, than it is a generational issue.
Okay.
So I'm not one who is quick to throw aspersion. And another thing is, let's not generalize. Not every Gen Z acts the Gen Z way. So that's another thing I think we should put out. But yeah, there are some traits that are common to Gen Zs, which I don't think it's a generational problem. I think it's more a societal problem and more a personal problem.
Right.
The truth is, how you were behaving when you were 18, 19, 20 is not the same way you are behaving now. So you can't expect that they'll behave the same way a millennial like me and you would behave.
That's
right. That one is a standard law. That's number 2. The way the society is nowadays, we are living in a society where people speak more out. It's not the same way in the 70s, in the 80s, in the 90s, even into the late 90s. So they are saying things like that. They are saying that, oh, I can actually speak out when I'm in an environment that I'm perceiving as toxic. Yes. I know that's another word that we use and probably sometimes tend to abuse, but there are some organizations that are actually toxic. Okay. So I think it's more a societal thing. It's more a personal thing. Yes, they might have their issues and all of that, which I think to them, please also learn to grow some things, think about some things. If you're on the receiving end of some things, how would you take it if you're on the receiving end? So I think we should also manage that. But please, let's not be quick to just throw aspersions and just throw that these Gen Zs are blah, blah, blah. I'm not of that school of thought.
All right, so as we custom, kindly look straight to the camera and leave one word for perhaps intending HR in the future.
One word, maybe one sentence, would be learn as much as you can, intending HRs, learn as much as you can, network as much as you can. Don't be too quick to be a thought leader, to speak. Oh, I've seen this person that is speaking about HR. I really like it. Don't be too quick to be a thought leader. Be a thought learner, a lot of thought learning. And then last is, please be patient with yourself, right? You might have started learning about HR, probably taking projects and all of that, and then you are looking for that big break. I want to start, even if it's an internship, please be patient. You probably are competing with, not probably, you are actually competing with tens of thousands of other people for limited opportunities. So please be patient with yourself. Thank you.
All right, so do you have maybe 2 cents for a candidate who perhaps might be applying for a job someday?
Oh, yeah, I definitely do. So number 1 would be streamline your efforts. right? Don't apply for just any role. I would typically say that there are no unfit candidates. You are not an unqualified candidate in yourself. You are probably just applying for a role that you're not qualified for. You have talent, except you are an unserious person. You have talent. You are actually a profile for a role. So those roles are the roles that you should target. And I'm not saying that you should only target roles that you are 100% qualified for, because you may not see such roles. But if you are seeing a role that you're 70, 80% qualified for, yes, put all your efforts into those roles, apply for those roles, as opposed to roles that you're actually seeing that this role is requiring someone who has 15 years of experience, you have 5. Someone who has worked in a fintech space, you work in the banking space. Someone who has experience across Africa, you only have experience in Kenya or in Nigeria. As opposed to applying for those roles, apply for roles that actually suit your profile. That's number one. Number two would be that you should upskill. You are eyeing a company and you are seeing that this company actually use a particular software. Learn about the software. You might not actually be using that software where you work, but just learn. Just watch a demo about it on YouTube or online. Just learn. That might just be what will stand you out, right? And then 3 is patience. Please be patient with yourself, right? Just like the advice that I shared with intending HR professionals, please be patient with yourself. Keep applying. I know it's easier said than done, right? But please, we really don't have the choice than to be patient, right? Good luck.
Mr. Emmanuel Samuels, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much. The pleasure is mine.
All right, that's our offering today. Many thanks for watching. And of course, don't forget to follow us on all our socials. It will come your way same time next week. My name is Joshua Kata. See you next time. Bye for now.